Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Karen, the women's midlife specialist, and I have some great labs to share with you today because we don't get to see premenopause labs very often. And this one is also really interesting because we're going to talk about something you have never heard of before, and it's something very interesting. So this is a 45-year-old lovely lady. We're going to call her EW, and she's premenopause, regular periods. However, she sent us a great note along with her labs, and she told us that her main complaint is that she regularly spots for up to a week before her period starts. And this has been occurring for actually years, but it's getting more significant for the last couple of years. Now, she sent this to us, and so this is a really big benefit for us to know. She also told us that a year ago, testing showed that she had a low testosterone level and a normal estrogen level. So she wanted to increase her testosterone and decrease her um, uh, or 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 at least balance her hormones better. So she heard about ashwagandha and started ashwagandha at 750 milligrams a day at that time. So that would have been about a year ago. Now, let's take a look at what her labs look like. Her estradiol is 1.1. I don't know what it was before, and maybe we don't. It might not have been salivary, so we can't really identify apples to oranges if it was blood work. But her estrogen is now just a little low for her age, but she has a normal progesterone, though between the progesterone and estrogen ratio, it shows that she has a very mild progesterone to estrogen deficiency, a low, so she's got a slight estradiol dominance, a slight estrogen dominance at 90. Now, really, 90 is not that bad. But when you are having spotting before your period, this in and of itself could be the answer as to what is happening. The most common cause of spotting before your period is estrogen dominance, not enough progesterone. Now, also, it shows a high testosterone. So here she is taking ashwagandha because last year she had a low testosterone and now she's got a high testosterone. Now, this could be a couple of things. We're not comparing apples to apples here because we're comparing blood work probably, and then of course saliva. I'm going to hang my hat on saliva. How long your blood sits in that tube before it makes it to the lab is highly indicative of any abnormality that you might get. So if her tube sat in the lab before they were actually tested, those hormone levels are actually going to change, and actually they can decrease. So she could have not really had as low of testosterone as it showed. But let's just say it's accurate. Because we do know that ashwagandha can help with testosterone levels. Now, what about DHEA? DHEA, so before we go any further, I'm sorry, the real question is this high testosterone a problem? Or is it a blessing? Because for some people, they would say, gosh, I wish I had that high of testosterone, because testosterone improves our immune system, improves our confidence, and helps with muscle mass and immune system. And a lot of people would love a little bit of high testosterone at this time, as long as it's occurring with the right combinations. And that's what we're going to look at with EW. And that's what makes this lab so special. And then when we look at DHEA, it's just normal. It's actually a low normal. I'm going to show you on the graph how I know that. And her cortisol is a high normal. So here's what we've got: a low estradiol for her age. She's actually in the blue. She's actually in the normal range, but for premenopause at age 45, it's kind of low. And then her progesterone is right in the middle, but still for an estrogen dominance, we want that progesterone to estrogen ratio to be at least 100. She is 90. And here's the testosterone up here at her age. And you can see that it's actually higher than optimal at age 30. And it's even higher than than it is when we're 20. Okay, so we're going to find out in just a moment if that's a problem for her. And here's our DHEA that's rather on the low end of normal and on the high end of normal or higher for a 9 a.m. cortisol saliva, morning 9 a.m. Okay, so here's where we find out as to whether or not how significant these symptoms, how significant these lab values are for regarding her symptoms. So let's first look at the general picture. Our general picture shows the number one complaint right there. Bing, bang, boom. High androgens. There we go. The highest complaint. Even though she writes to us that her biggest concern is that spotting before her period. Well, that's a big concern, but that may not be what her symptoms show. Now, let's see how she rated that. Bleeding changes. Her changes, she said, have been going on for years, so she might have just made this the mild. This is mild, moderate, severe. So she says they're getting worse over the last couple of years, so she communicated this to us in another place by writing us this on her email. But in her symptoms, she's defining it here. Okay. Now, had she said yes, this was a severe problem to her, it's her main concern, then it would have been more indicative of other things like low metabolism and, I believe, estrogen dominance. Okay, it would have been this category right here, which is estrogen dominance. Now, how about that? The second biggest category of symptoms that are problematic for her is estrogen dominance. So we're seeing the top two things related to what we're seeing on her labs, estrogen dominance and high androgens. The third thing here is metabolic syndrome. Surprised me a little because she's a little lady, what I would consider a nice size. She's quite tall, 5'7". Wow, that probably is quite attractive. 23 BMI, lovely BMI, very healthy BMI. Waist, though, is 33. So she tends to apparently gain her weight in her waist. Now, this is going to be also eye-opening for you because we're going to discuss that regarding metabolic syndrome and high androgens. We're getting somewhere here. Hang in there with me. Now, how about the fourth one? I popped that in there because it's very close. Both of these are very close, but hypometabolism is her, which means low metabolism, is steady right after metabolic syndrome. Okay, so we've got adrenal issues. We've got high androgen issues, estrogen dominance, metabolic syndrome, low metabolism, and there are some adrenal, low adrenal, where's that? Low cortisol. No, we don't have any cortisol issues. What am I talking about? This one here. Oh, low androgens. So she's got an interesting mix between high androgens and low androgens. So this is why it's so important to look at these symptoms as individual symptoms as well. This one, that bad boy just happens to some of us. She's got low estrogen. She's not a heavy set individual. This is going to make this vaginal dryness come out early. You've heard me say before, doggone it, I've had the Sahara Desert since I was in my 30s. Some women face this earlier than other women. I got a solution for you there. And then when we look at these other severe symptoms, check it out. Weight gain in the waist. So we're talking about elevated androgens and metabolic syndrome. That is classic for weight gain in the waist. And right below it, decreased libido. That could be many, many, many things because our libido starts in our head and then filters down to everything else. Stress is a huge component of low libido for women, and that just sets off a cascade of events and that is why I always look at libido last. I look at libido last because every woman is different when it comes to libido. Many women can have very, very, very high androgens, and have no libido because our sex drive is so critically different per person because it starts in the brain. And our stress levels have a tremendous amount to do with it, as well as the neurotransmitters in our brain. So depression is extremely common cause of low libido. So when I'm talking about hormone replacement, I often skip, and you've probably noticed if you're following along with me, how many times I skip that decreased libido. It is a topic I could talk all day long on libido. I could give you an all day long conference on low libido and how to get your libido back. And maybe I'll do that one day, right? If you want it, maybe we'll do it. Check it out. The next severe symptom, tender breasts. The number one cause of tender breasts is estrogen dominance, unopposed estrogen. So we are looking at some significant symptoms that are directly related to what we see in her labs, as well as what she has going on forthright in what she defines as problematic for her. She has a moderate amount of stress, cold body temperature, and sugar craving. Okay, the sugar craving is that metabolic syndrome right here, and it also can elevate with stress and high cortisol. And let's see what else we have here that is moderate. Weight gain in the hips, and hair dry and brittle, and even nails are breaking and brittle. This is commonly low metabolism. Okay, so we really looked at her symptoms quite well. Now let's move forward into the next thing. So high androgens, estrogen dominance, metabolic syndrome, and low metabolism are what we're dealing with. So her personal note of spotting before her period, which by the way is very common with estrogen dominance. So the very first thing we have to do is resolve estrogen dominance. That is what you want to get out of. Fortunately, you have a mild estrogen dominance when it comes to your labs. We see a 90 here. Now, I would not call your symptoms mild, but I would definitely call a fortunate. We may be able to kick this with only a small amount of hormone protect, which is our progesterone only. And since you have regular periods, we want to use hormone protect at this time for the second half of the month, days 15 through 28 of your cycle. This will correct your estrogen dominance, and it may prevent bleeding before your period. Okay, so I'm going to say excuse me, I'm going to say start with one pump twice daily. And that is, I want you to give this a few cycles before considering the need to increase this to either 3 pumps a day or 4 pumps a day. Let's just start low and go slow. So give that a few cycles and do 1 pump twice daily. And you should see improvement with breast tenderness. And I would love to see pre-period spotting resolve. If you had any, it should be minimal. If after a few cycles this does not improve, I would go up to 3 pumps twice a day, maybe 1 in the morning, 2 at night. And if you're not seeing improvement there, pop it up to 2 and 2. But I think it's going to be on the lower range. I think you're going to do well on the lower range. And if not, no biggie. You would be more on the average, and that because quite honestly, your estradiol might be a little lower this month than it is next month, and that might mean that you need more hormone protect, because remember, and I didn't put that graph on here, but remember, when you're in this premenopausal time, the estrogen is fluctuating up and down. And so when it fluctuates up and down, if this saliva catches it on when it's been more on the low side, it's going to look like you need less hormone protect than you actually do. So start with the 1 pump twice a day, give it a couple months, 2 to 3 months, and then increase it if you're still spotting or you still have breast tenderness. Now, it's very, very common and totally normal to have breast tenderness right before your period. Okay, I'm talking about a day or two before your period. All right, not for a week, not for 2 weeks, not for 4 days, only a day, maximum 2 days before your period. That should give you some indication of how you're coming along. Okay, so what about, the other thing I want to mention also is, remember, you're changing. You're just so young. You're such a beautiful young chick to me, and I think it's awesome that you are so smart and kicking this early. And I did too, and so I'm proud of myself. And when you're my age, oh my God, you're gonna have girlfriends that are still complaining, and you're gonna be like, oh my God, you guys should have done this a long time ago. But in the event, remember, you are changing. So this may be a great plan for you for a year. It might be a great plan for 4 or 5 years, but just be cognizant that you are going through some changes as you age. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, how about the vaginal dryness? Well, happy hoo-hoo, of course, my darling, of course. So it's got DHEA and progesterone. Very little systemically absorbed, so you don't need to worry in terms of that. Now, there is some, spillage, I guess you could call it. There is some lubrication that comes on the outside. It's not a lot. It's, if women don't like that, then use it less. But honestly, I love that because it tells me that my vajayjay is healthy. And so it's good to feel that. And it's very, very easy to, get up in the morning, you pee, and, you wipe it off and it's perfect. But that is mostly just the leftover suppository, the medium that the hormones are held in. It is not the hormones. The hormones are being absorbed by the vaginal walls. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm so sorry. I've got this cough, which I'm sitting outside in this beautiful location, and that might have something to do with it. Okay. Oh, hey, what's next? So we're still looking at what to do with the next set. High androgens. Well, your DHEA is low normal, but the testosterone is high and you have high androgen symptoms. So this is not the time to supplement with DHEA, because if you supplement it with DHEA, your testosterone is going to go higher. So we don't want that. So could ashwagandha actually increase your testosterone? Yes, I did bring that point. Yes, which is awesome. Something new for most of you. Obviously, it wasn't new for you, EW. You knew that it would help with that, and it does. But could it increase a lot? Generally speaking, it doesn't increase it a lot, but it does support it, and it can increase it. And so it is a good hormone I commonly love for women to use for this. But could it also be something else? When we look at your symptoms, we find that indeed it could be something else. Even though you're not overweight, you do have metabolic syndrome symptoms with weight gain. Primarily, you're saying also in the stomach, and this is a very common cause of increasing testosterone. What happens is this increase in weight gain in the stomach and in metabolic syndrome, what happens is an insulin resistance starts to develop, which causes sugar cravings. And this causes ongoing weight gain in the waist area, as well as pushes hormone production toward the androgens. So over the last year, there may have been some increase in testosterone related to ashwagandha, but metabolic syndrome, due to likely excess carbohydrate consumption without equal amounts of burning those carbohydrates off, could have pushed this as well. And it's likely an additional component to this elevated testosterone. So, what do we need to do? Well, you know it. If you've been watching these videos, you know the routine. We got to go for that low glycemic carbohydrate diet. Eat those healthy fats like those avocados and olive oil and hemp seed. Those are the healthy fats. You got to be careful, of course, that you stay within normal consumption amounts so you don't gain weight from too much fat. But healthy fat, low glycemic carbohydrates, adequate protein, good amount of adequate protein. So how do you do that? Well, you eliminate your breads and pastas, eliminate all your processed foods, and I want to tell you, basically eliminate them for, if you eliminate them for 21 days, and I mean eliminate them, you will break the sugar habit and you will break the cycle, because it only takes 21 days to change taste buds. And when you put it back in your mouth, you'll go like, I don't, that doesn't taste as good as what I remember. Ooh, I don't want that anymore. So put yourself on a 21-day, eliminate breads, pastas, processed foods, massively increase your vegetables. Use something like balsamic vinegar and just a tablespoon or so of a good oil, hemp oil, olive oil, macadamia nut oil, avocado oil. And then also one avocado per day is very, very healthy. And fruits, we want low sugar fruits because fruits have a lot of sugar. So while you're in this 21-day cycle, now eventually I'm going to be doing some awesome GI gut hormone programs with you guys, and that we're going to be really focused hard on this. But the fruits need to be right now for 21 days at least, and maybe longer, as long as you can, berries, lemons, limes, and no more than a half to one apple per day. So berries, any kind of berry, strawberry, blueberry, boysenberry, blackberries. And stay away right now from the higher sugar foods, like higher sugar fruits, like bananas, peaches, plums, melons, all of those. Put those on the no-no list for now. They have too high a sugar. Apples have a little higher amount of sugar than berries, but the reason we can afford them in a low carbohydrate diet is because of pectin and the fiber that they contain. So and they are, as you know, when you eat one, they don't taste that sweet, right? So it's all about that. And same with berries, right? Berries aren't all that sweet. So you can taste what is sweet and what's not. So no dried fruit, those are very high in sugar. You want to go with very low sugar. No diet foods, that changes the bacterial component in your gut. We've got to keep a healthy gut. And you want minimal dairy. So there's a lot of lactose sugars in dairy. So if you eat yogurt, make sure that it is a plain Greek yogurt that is mostly protein. All right. Okay, so if you have to have a dessert, these are two of my favorite options. I love Arctic Zero, and I love dark chocolate. So we know dark chocolate is very good. You only want to eat a quarter of a bar at a time. Okay, but that at least gives you some options when somebody else is eating dessert and tempting your strength. We have options that we can back into. Now, if you have cravings for bread or pasta, don't go for the bread or pasta. Reach for something very high in fiber. Like my reaching one is Mary's Gone crackers. They're very high in fiber. You can eat like 10 or 12 of them. And they will give you that crunch that you need. They will give you some immediate carbohydrates that you may be craving, but they will break down slowly. They are a low carbohydrate cracker. So go for something like that. Get the other stuff out of your vision. Okay, how about the next problem that we saw. And that is, I'm not convinced that you don't or aren't developing some low thyroid symptoms. You may very well be developing that. And I will tell you, with me, I developed low thyroid hypothyroidism in my 40s. And the only symptom I had was achy legs. Okay, achy legs. When I got in bed, my legs felt like they were just, oh my gosh, I had just maybe walked all day long on them or something. And they were achy. And it didn't make sense to me. And so my lab values were actually normal initially. And then I waited too long. I did not investigate how to take care of myself when it came to that, because I was very, very focused on other things. And therefore, I went into true hypothyroidism with abnormal labs when I started my treatment. But this could pull you out of something like that. Okay, so the first thing that I would recommend is testing your labs. So you appear as if this is going to be something that you need, but you can test your labs, and ZRT has a blood spot kit for testing thyroid, but you can also, thyroid hormone labs are very accurate in the blood, and you can have your doctor order the labs for things like fatigue, hair loss, um, anemia, bleeding changes in your period. All of those are diagnoses that insurance companies generally pay for thyroid hormone tests. So this is what to do with those thyroid hormone tests after you have them done. Look at the free T4 and free T3 in the mid to higher range of normal reference ranges. That's what you're looking for. And look for a low reverse T3 in the normal reference ranges. So you want a low reverse T3, a higher, not when I say lower, I mean low in the reference range. And when you look at free T4 and free T3, you want to look at the mid to higher reference range of lab values. And your TSH, you want that to be sitting between 0.5 and 1.3, plus or minus 0.3. Okay, so if the labs don't fall in these optimal reference ranges, I'm putting power in you right now. Right now, you are getting stronger because this is what you do. Your doctor's going to say your labs are fine and scoot you, pat your little bottom out the door. That's all that's going to happen to you if your labs come back normal. Don't do that. Get Thyroxane. Take 2 capsules each morning for 2 to 4 weeks, and then increase to 2 caps twice daily. Improve. Don't worry about the fact that it has ashwagandha in it. You're going to do fine as long as you follow all of these recommendations. And so that's all I've got for you. I think that EW, you're going to do great, and we'll love to hear from you. This was an absolute pleasure doing this for you, and I look forward to our next one, and I look forward to hearing from you. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you then. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.